Getting started.
Hi guys, how are you? Amazing, amazing. So, how many of you are from Bangalore? Awesome. And how many of you have traveled from other cities?
Damn,
Oh, amazing, amazing.
is
And I
Chennai.
hope you're staying nearby, right? Yeah, you guys have already told it at the beginning itself.
Let's get shout outs. How many of you are from Chennai?
Oh, amazing.
Cool. Mumbai. Okay. Some
Delhi?
people-
Awesome, guys. Good
Anyone
bunch to see.
from Rajasthan?
Oh, not like your hometown,
Some-
like
some.
you're coming from Rajasthan for this event, is it?
How many of you are from Gujarat? Woo! Woo! Great, great, great.
You come from Gujarat for this event? Oh wow,
Damn,
nice.
I'm also from Gujarat. I'm also from Gujarat. I'm from Himmatnagar. Himmatnagar. Rajkot. Great.
Okay, in terms of experience, how many of you are fresher? Okay, how many of you are almost more than 5 years? Oh, great, great. And definitely you have taken a right decision to come today. And as today is 3rd of July, so you're most welcome for that. And I hope you'll be there for all 3 days, right? Till the workshop? Amazing. We are just going to start after a few minutes. Probably after 5-10 minutes we'll start. We're just waiting for somebody to join who are outside, and we'll kick off the session.
And how many of you are attending React Nexus for the first time?
Oh,
Okay.
damn, that's it.
Damn. That's nice. That's nice.
And it's the second time? How many of?
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, I have a quick question. So, give a cheer. The crowd will be like say more, and then I'll start with last day or yesterday or like that. Okay, interesting.
Okay, so who is already attending the conference? This is the first conference of this year, or you have already attended in Bangalore or other cities? I mean tech conference I'm talking about, or business conference. How many of you? Or this is the first one in this year? Okay. Absolutely great one to start for.
So we are having a bunch of contests from our sponsors, from our side as well. So we'll be announcing about the contest and everything. So make sure you do take part in all the contests that we host. You'll get some swags, gifts for all the contests that we'll be hosting, and do make sure that you. So conferences are something is a place for networking. So make sure you use this time, use these 3 days to make as many connections that you can make. Follow on LinkedIn to other people, network the best way you can. This is my personal experience. I was in React Nexus 2023. I made a whole lot of connections. I got jobs with the help of connections I made in Nexus. So make sure you connect with people, take pictures, and enjoy like the time that you're having and make most out of it.
Yeah, and as you must be knowing that we have a React Bangalore as a community as well. So how many of you are very much keen, or you have already used to attend a lot of meetups on every month basis in Bangalore itself? How many of you? Okay, yes. Good numbers. And as you know, the frequency is 2 meetups a month. It is happening now. So of course, it will remain the same for this month onwards as well. So yeah. So pretty well to have a contribution from your side, and you're most welcome to fill the CFP. We'll keep on announcing very soon. The meetup should be coming in Bangalore, so most welcome to fill the CFP for the speakers. And if you are, for example, if there are limitations for the CFP, then you are, of course, we'll be calling you for the next meetups as well. So please don't get disheartened if you're not selected, but definitely you will be, because we are giving the opportunity to every single person for that.
So, hello everyone, welcome to React Nexus 2025. Are you folks excited? Woo! That was not at all loud. Are you folks excited?
Yeah,
Amazing.
that's the way.
Okay, I'm Adyasha Mahanti, a software engineer at HackerRank, and I'll be your MC for the next 3 amazing days with 2 amazing co-hosts.
Hey guys, I'm Pritesh Kiri and I work at Tooljet as developer advocate.
And
Hi guys, my name is Prem. I'm a community manager of Geeky Ants. And yeah, today we both and we all of us will be having an amazing time. Thank you.
we are thrilled to have you all here with us. So we'll be here hyping you, guiding you, and helping you to have the best time in React Nexus 2025. Before we get started, let's take a moment to remember the energy we created last year.
अंदर चलता हूँ भाई, हम जा रहे हैं अंदर बाय।
So that was last year, and this year it's going to be even more better. Are you folks excited?
You!
How's the Josh? Woo! Okay, so before we get started, I wanted to take a moment to understand about our code of conduct. So, in React Nexus, we believe in creating a space that's respectful, inclusive, and kind. So use welcoming language, accept differences, encourage ideas, and show empathy. And of course, if you ever feel uncomfortable or see something off, you can reach out to organizers or volunteers. You will spot them in these t-shirts. Okay, all right, handing over the stage to Pritesh.
Awesome. So, next we'll be talking about community, the React Bangalore community, how we started and where we are right now. So we hosted our first ever offline meetup in Bangalore in 2015, and I'm pretty sure many of you must be already be part of React Bangalore community. So just give a quick cheer if you have been, to the React Bangalore meetup. Anyone? Great. So after that, in 2021, we hosted our first online conference, that was React Day. And in 23, we finally hosted our first offline meetup, that was React Nexus 2023. Then last year, in 24, we hosted the second edition, that was React Nexus 2.0, and now we are at React Nexus 3.0 finally. So give it a round of applause for yourself for making this possible for us. This React Nexus 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 won't be possible without your support. Thanks for visiting to our meetups and the conferences. And from 2015 to 2025, we have completed our 10 years as a meetup group in Bangalore. So thank you so much again. And we are now 25K strong community, which is world's largest, one of the largest community for React. And we are glad that it is in India. It's 25K is a huge number. So thank you so much for making this possible again. And with that, I would like to hand over the stage to Prem.
Thank you. So yes, there's a time for right now for the sponsorship through which this event is possible. So we have a platinum sponsors GoDaddy, and we have gold Escadio and Zoho, and we have silver ImageKit.io and Vonage, bronze Dream11, QVD42 and MIQ. Can we have the huge round of applause for them, please? And also knowledge partner, Google for Developers, which will be mainly have an entire role on third day as a workshop. And we have community partners this time, few has been added. And JS Lovers, React Play, Chennai React.js, you must be knowing. React Delhi, Dev Tools, D3 Community, JS Mavens, Team.Shiksha, the Real Day Squad, Real React Ahmedabad, and Geeky Ants. Can we have a huge round of applause for them as well? And the most important are main pillars or are the speakers. And I'm sure they will be having all the insights for you. And please ready to grab all the topics, all the entire thing which you can utilize on your projects for the daily basis. So please, we want them to be the most important session here. And just one thing, we have one rule applies everywhere, that whenever they'll be on the stage, please cheer up as much as you can, scream, shout, and when they will deliver the speech, then as well we need your support for them, because they deserve the entire applaud. And yes, it's all about you, because you have spent your time today, and we are very, very grateful to you that you have spent and you have came long ago from other cities, from Bangalore, far away. So yeah, welcome you all. So before we start the session, we just want to see your energy, that we just want to see that how much you have energy to grab the entire insights. Can we have this, please? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Woo! Amazing, guys, amazing, amazing. So let's kick off the session with Adesha. Over to you.
Okay, are you folks excited for our first talk? Still the energy is so low. Are you folks excited? Yes. From the back? Yes. From here? Yes. Folks, you have to shout aloud once again. From here? Yes. From here? Yes. Let's start. Our first speaker is Nipuni Paris, a front-end engineer with 6+ years of experience who has mastered both React and security at scale. She is also a Harry Potter nerd and a badminton player. Today she is going to show us how React 19's new Actions API makes forms smarter, faster and less annoying. Let's have a round of applause for her.
Hello, can you guys hear me at the back? Okay, thank you so much. So, hi all, a very good morning. Again, let's start from the top. So, a very good morning to everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited to kick things off at React Nexus 2025, and in my talk I'm going to be talking about how to build better forms with React 19, and in this session we are going to talk about how forms, a very vital part of practically any enterprise application, can be built in a performant and more scalable way while preserving a good user experience using these new features introduced in React 19. So over the next 25 minutes, I'm gonna walk you through what are these new features in React 19 and share some code examples and practical patterns with you. So hopefully by the end of this talk, you will be more confident about your future roadmap to upgrade or build your enterprise forms application, forms. So before we get into the serious stuff, let me first introduce myself. Again, my name is Nipuni Paris, and I'm an associate at technical lead at WSO2 Asgardio team. Quick intro into what Asgardio is. It is your identity and access management platform. So we take care of user access management and identity management for you, so you don't have to worry about it in your application code. Okay, so I've been a software engineer for almost close to 7 years now. And over those 7 years, I've had my fair share of struggles with forms. Can you, by show of hands, can you guys please agree with me or disagree? Thank you for that. Okay, so because a full appreciation of the solutions provided by React 19 requires us to have a clear understanding of what are the problem they are trying to solve, right? So in any real world enterprise application, whether it's like an internal admin dashboard or like a e-commerce platform with multi-step complex payment workflows, you often see dozens of fields in forms, right? So some are conditionally rendered, some require like multi-step interdependent validations, and some even require to dynamically add or remove based on the user choices. So because of all these requirements, the implementation complexity sort of skyrockets, right? And the traditional approach to building forms in React, which is, I mean, the source of control comes with the React state. We are and with every single input field, we are required to declare a piece of state and then write an on-change event handler to update that state and wire these together. So in forms with dozens of fields, this increase of state management logic sort of adds more boilerplate code than required, right? And this complexity in like state management directly contributed to the performance degradation, because in a implementation where the React state is the main source of control, every keystroke in an input field triggers a state update, right? So which in turn causes like the part of the form or even the significant part of the component tree to re-render. And for in large and complex forms, these frequent re-renders can sort of lead to sluggish or even unresponsive user experiences. And one other very significant challenge is the maintainability, because the scattered nature of form implementation create many hurdles for us when it comes to maintainability. Because the state declarations, the validation rules, error handling logics were often like scattered across many components or even files. So this lack of co-location made it very difficult for us to have an overall idea about the form's behavior at all, right? And while we are like struggling and while we are juggling all these performance issues, performance optimizations and state management and all that, implementing advanced UX patterns and accessibility sort of relegate to secondary concerns. So implementing like, implementing all these resolutions for the challenges we mentioned earlier requires an additional manual effort. So we as developers naturally sort of implement these UX patterns and all either halfway or overlook completely. So even with all these challenges before React 19 for years, while entirely possible, the form implementations dependent on two predominant concepts, controlled components and uncontrolled components. So controlled components are typically components where you use the use state as the single source of truth for the form's data, and the value of an input field in the form is explicitly bound to the state variable, and any change to that input triggers an on-change event handler that updates the declared state. So most of the prominent libraries like Formic and React Final Form are built on top of this concept called control components. But however, as we discussed in the earlier slides, this level of control comes at a cost of significant boilerplate and performance overhead, and also requires us to add manual effort to overcome the overcome the performance issues that comes with it. And uncontrolled components means the form data is handled directly by the DOM itself rather than the React state, and instead of managing the input values through every change, developers use a ref to obtain the direct reference to the DOM node. The value is then pulled from the node only when it's needed, typically during the form submission. So this concept is basically the foundation for the very popular form library. I think you all are familiar with the React hook form, and essentially known to be very performant because it completely avoids that read on keystroke cycle we talked about earlier. And as you can see, React 19 also is listed as a proponent under control components. But this sort of signals at like a complete paradigm shift, I would say, because it aligns more with the performance benefit of letting the DOM control the input state. But however, React 19 simply does not adopt the control pattern as it is. So it sort of introduces a hybrid model, I would say. The new architecture, in the new architecture, input behaves in an uncontrolled manner for the maximum performance, of course, while providing a new set of hooks for the developers to have this controlled orchestration over the form's submission lifecycle. So let's see how React 19 did that. So in my opinion, so React 19 marked a significant evolution or a significant change in how we handle forms in React applications, right? So this new approach aims to sort of reduce the client-side complexity and make the server interaction more direct and intuitive for the developers. And let's take a look at what these new features are. Right? So the centerpiece of React 19 is the introduction of this action API. So actions are basically functions, typically asynchronous, that can be passed directly through to your form elements action prop. Right? So this is sort of a deliberate choice, I would say, by the React team, which aligns React more with the more closely with the native HTML form behavior and web standards, and moving away from that earlier client-side abstraction of the onSubmit event handler. So this alignment eliminates the need for us to manually call that event prevent default in our submission handlers. And also when a form uses an action, React intercepts this form submission and manages the entire life cycle automatically, so you don't have to worry about it. And secondly, it leverages the native form data API, and the action function we talked about automatically receive this forms data as a form data object, and this actually eliminates the need to manually construct the form data from the form state. So because this system is built on top of like standard HTML forms, now the native HTML5 validation attributes like required and pattern are available to you out of the box without extra configuration, which is a good thing, right? So an action can also like be two kinds. Either it can be a client action or a server action. So I mean, if your form handling part is entirely on the client side, you would typically use a client action. But if you are using a framework like Nexus, you can also declare server actions. And so in order to make these things even more easier for you, React introduced this use action state hook, which sort of manages the entire life cycle of an action, its pending state, the form data that it receives, and the error handling part of things, all in one hook. And complementing the use action state hook is the use form status hook. So it is a very, very simple hook, particularly, very useful when you are building reusable components. So because this hook's primary purpose is to allow the components, the child components, to access the status of its parent form component or the form submission without requiring any props to pass down through the component tree. Prop drilling, anyone? So there's a very crucial one rule that you need to follow when using this hook. So the components that calls the use form status hook must be rendered as a child of the form element. So it will not work if it's called within the same component that renders the form, or in the form tag itself. It must be in a separate nested component. And the final hook in the React form arsenal is the use optimistic hook. So again, this is a very powerful but very simple hook, which is primarily focused on creating very highly responsive user experiences. So it allows, I think it's pretty much self-explanatory if you read the hook's name. It allows the developers to optimistically update the UIs with the expected outcome immediately, without waiting for the server to confirm that the underlying asynchronous action is completed successfully or not. So having said that, let's take a closer look at these features. So again, as I mentioned, Actions API is typically your functions, right? So in the traditional flow, if you are to handle a form in the client side, what you typically do is, user submits the form, you handle the form execution or the on submit logic in the code. Browser executes the code, we make an API call, and we are happy. So you can utilize these actions function in that particular flow as well. And when we are calling a server-side, if you are using the server-side rendering approach in your forms, so you can again use a action function in your server-side component, and typically you would call the server-side function, server-side action, and the React would handle the rest for you. So let's take a look at a very basic example here. So you can see there's a form with one single field. So typically in the controlled approach, what we do is, you have the on submit handler, which is handle submit, and when the user clicks on submit, we would have a separate state variable to handle the state, the pending state, and we set it to true, and then we call maybe a API function or like the backend to pass the form data, and then we set the pending state to false, and then set the data returned from the API response, right? So this is quite a lot of boilerplate code. So before we see how use action state sort of eliminates the need for all these boilerplate code, let's go through the declaration or the syntax of the use action state hook, right? So typically the first the first is the parameter, which is a function to be called when the form is submitted. So when the function is called, it would receive the previous state of the form as the initial argument, followed by the arguments that a form action would normally receive. And secondly, the initial state param is the value you want the state to be initially. It can be any serializable value, and this argument would get ignored after the action is invoked the first time. And you have this optional parameter called permalink. So it is basically a string containing a URL to a unique page that this form modifies. So, I mean, if you use this in conjunction with progressive enhancement, basically, if your form submission happens before the JavaScript loads in the browser will automatically navigate to that specified permalink rather than the current page's URL. So, this ensures that the same form component is rendered on that destination page. And the use action state hook would return the current state. During the first render, it will match the initial state you provided, and after the action is invoked, it will match the value returned from the action. And a new action, the second value that is returned from the hook is the form action, which is a new action that you can pass the action prop in your form component, and this action can also be manually called in a transition as well. And lastly, the is pending flag. So I think it is, again, you can understand what it does when you look at it. It basically tells you whether there is a pending transition underneath or not. So if you go back to the earlier code example, so now using the React 19's use action state hook, you can get rid of all these boilerplate code and instead use use action state hook to specify the pending state and handle the form data in a way that is required in your implementation. So it reduces a lot of boilerplate code in your form implementation. So having said that, let's look more closer to it. I mean, don't misunderstand, this is not an interpretation of how I feel about this. Okay, so let's take a closer look, because you guys remember transitions were introduced in React 18, and with React 19 they provided the capability to pass asynchronous function into these transitions. So that seamless state management provided by the use action state you saw is powered by React transition under the hood. So using use action state, developers could achieve like similar non-blocking UI updates. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can, with React 19, you can do this instead of using the use action state hook as well. This works perfectly fine. But use action state hook is like a specialized and more high-level abstraction built on top of use transition. So it automatically sort of wraps the actions execution with a transition and manage the pending states and all that for you without you having to handle it by yourself. Yeah. So the next hook is the use form status hook. So as I mentioned earlier, this is pretty much straightforward. So it returns four main values. So one is the Boolean, if it's true, which basically means the parent form component is pending submission, otherwise it would be false. And the second is the data, which is an object basically implementing the form data interface. That contains the data of the parent form component that is submitting. And if there's no active submission or no parent form, obviously the value of it will be null. And second is the method. So it is like a string value of either get or post. So this represents whether the parent form is submitting with either a get or a post method. So by default, forms will use get, but you can specify otherwise. And action is a reference to a function that passes the action prop of the parent form component. If there's no parent form, again, the property would return null. So let's again take a look at a very basic example and see this hook in action. So as I mentioned in my previous slide, so this use form status hook come in real handy if you are implementing like your own like custom components for the field, right? So as you can see, the username field here is a custom custom field I have implemented in order for me to use it in my form. So use form status hook. Let me use the pending state of the parent form component without me having to pass it down through the props down the component tree. So that's, I think, pretty much clear. And the next hook I wanted to cover is the use optimistic hook, and it lets you show a different state while an asynchronous action is going on. So it, if we take a look at the, the declaration, so what it results in is the optimistic state, and this state would be equivalent to the initial state unless action is pending. And add optimistic is the dispatching function to call when you have an optimistic update. So if it takes like one argument, the optimistic value of any type, and we'll call the update function with the state and optimistic value. So state is the value to be returned initially and whenever no action is pending. And lastly, the update function is a function that takes the current state and the optimistic value and return a resulting optimistic, like a combined value for you. Let's see how we would typically use this in a scenario. So imagine a chat app like this. So if the user types a reply to this and sends, this should appear something like this, right? So, even though the the reply is not yet being sent, we need to optimistically show what the response was, and we need to show the pending state, right? So, how we can do this with use optimistic hook is, so you have your initial form declaration, and in the action, you send the initial state of the message, and then it would return the optimistic value for you to utilize in your code. So having said that, let me quickly cover some advanced patterns you can use with React 19. So with all these fundamental understandings, like a very frequent question is how to handle the validation. So answer is a hybrid validation strategy. So you have your client-side schema declaration with like a library like sort or something like that, and you have your client-side validation, and then maybe you can use a library like React hook form to manage the form's interactive state and ensure that on the server side you have action which further validates your form data. And the second thing is, whenever you have like a multi-step workflow, you can utilize a wizard, and you can have like a one parent component which users use action state and have the state managed in a very centralized way and cleanly, and in a more maintainable way you can isolate the logic. And again, so sometimes we need to render dynamic fields. So the way to go is to go with like a array indexing for the fields, so that you will have like a uniquely identifiable identifier for each field, and then when you need to make changes, it's just a matter of manipulating that array of fields. And lastly, of course, a resilient application must always distinguish between expected validation errors and unexpected runtime errors. So a server action might not fail, but a DB can of course go offline. So always have a error boundary in place so that your application would gracefully handle these situations better. And so having said that, we have come to the end of my talk, and as we reach the end, I'm going to leave you with this. So React 19 is more than just a collection of hooks and APIs. So it's represent a more mature and integrated and a more powerful vision for what React could be as a framework, seamlessly bridges this client-side and server-side. So by understanding these new tools, hopefully after this talk, you can utilize these tools to better build better and faster forms in your applications. Thank you.
Okay, can we have a big cheer for Nipuni? That was a great start. So before we get started with our next talk, let's take a moment with a rapid fire round, okay? So raise your hand if you have ever pushed directly to main or master. Or it's for a company's repository, not yours. The number is more. What about this group? Okay, nice. Fix a bug by commenting out the code.
This is a great number. If the engineering managers are here, please check out, guys.
Name a variable data again. Name a variable data again. Means you have like const data equals something you have done. Rather than using some appropriate variable name, use something else.
Okay, how many of you have used test 1, test 2, test 3 as variable name?
That's a better question maybe. Attended a tech event just for the food. Don't tell me this is the event. Exclusive of this event. Okay, started your journey with open source. Why the number is less? Very few. Anybody has some fun like stories about how they started their journey or anything fun they experienced, who wanted to share? You wanted to? Okay, can we have a mic here? Yeah, take this.
Give it a round of applause for him first.
Yeah.
It was 2008 and I was searching job for Java and I got project for PHP and I do not know anything for PHP and I got selected. And I got there for a project, website development, and I got selected after 2 months.
Oh, got it. Any other stories?
Alright, can we have someone?
Yeah, there should be some fun stories. Oh, in the back.
Yeah, in the back side. Yeah. Okay,
Oh, you have? Okay, we'll go back to you. Yes.
So I started it when I learned Blender. I was in 9th grade and
Ninth grade, nice.
so I learned Blender first. I'm a 3D artist. Then I learned Godot. Godot is a free and open source game engine. And last month I started contributing to Godot.
And you are in 12th grade.
I finished.
Please have a big round of applause for this guy. Nice. Can we have the mic in the last?
To be honest, this is really a fun story.
Okay.
We had a group where, most of the developers who attend most of the meetings were there in a WhatsApp group. And we started planning for what we can do for New Year. And a few people told we can go for partying and we can host a house party. And there's one guy and he is in this room and what he told is we can do something meaningful, we can solve some problems. And we started brainstorming and 2 people from that started building it. And the problem we solved is we consolidated all the tech events. Since we all very exposed to tech events, all the people were there, almost all the community leads and everyone were there. So we created a directory kind of site called tamilnadu.tech and we made it open source and we wanted to deliberately made it open source so that other people can also contribute. So we didn't make any database. If you want to push any events, even if you are a beginner, you can just push it to events.json. By doing this, we made sure at least 30 new people onboarded into open source. And yeah, this is the fun story. Right now, the website visitors are around unique visitors more than 1,000 per month.
Oh, wow, nice. Any other stories from this side? Oh, wow, there.
Actually, this story is like around 5 years back. I'm just fresh, I don't know anything. I got the access to like the staging database. I deleted it. And then when they asked me, I said I don't know. And the other time they don't have the tracking mechanism, so I'm safe on that.
Okay, thanks for all your responses. Let's get started with our next talk. So up next is Akash Hamirwasia, a creative builder, design-friendly coder, and open source explorer. He's been experimenting with React compiler, and today he's here to share what happens when you adopt these new tools in the real world. So let's welcome Akash on the stage.
Hello, cool. Everyone can hear me? Awesome. So, thanks for the great introduction. My name is Akash Hamirwasia, and I'll be sharing some of the learnings I had while adopting the latest and greatest React compiler in my own product. My name is Akash Hamirwasia. I work as an engineer at 11 Labs. How many of you have heard about 11 Labs? We are building the best AI audio platform out there. So things like text-to-speech, voice cloning, voice changer, everything is something that we are building right now. You can follow me on Twitter. I also have a website. You can check it out. Now, in my free time, I also work on this product called Slanted. Slanted is a tool to create really catchy-looking 3D product videos, which you would find in launch keynotes of various big companies. They might show their software in a very fancy way. And Slanted allows you to create it with just a few clicks. It's a simple web-based tool. Now you can see this is a fully fledged editor on the browser. You can drag in clips, you can resize things, you can make edits to your videos on this tool. You can check it out at slanted.app. But the reason I bring this up is because UI-heavy and creativity applications like Slanted need to be extremely performant for a great user experience. Think about tools like Figma. What if Figma lagged when you drag a node or resize something? It would be a very poor experience, right? So it's very important for these applications to have extremely high performance. And while React makes it easy to build complex interfaces declaratively, we must have to think about UI performance at some point. We just can't ignore it. How many of you are familiar with this? Okay. Few. I think most of you haven't tried this out. It's a nightmare for developers, but do give it a try. So this is a standard React profiler flame graph showing how many re-renders happened for a particular interaction. And you can see it's not that great. An entire tree got re-rendered, and all the nested components are re-rendering multiple times. Now in this particular graph, one thing to highlight is this small component here called clip, short clip. These are individual clips that you add on the timeline, and they render on every time change in the timeline. So whenever you seek around, every timeline clip component re-renders continuously, which is insane. Now we can fix these things using some hooks and APIs that React already provides. Things like React.memo allow you to wrap your components so that it only re-renders when the props passed to it change. There is a hook called useMemo that you can use to wrap expensive parts of your component and make sure that they only run when the dependencies of those code change. Now some of you might not be aware that you can also wrap JSX inside useMemo. So in this example, inside this clip component, I have a drop-down menu that I show, and it re-renders very often. It's quite expensive. So I've wrapped it in a useMemo, it returns the JSX, and I simply render it while returning from the component. And finally, there's also useCallback, which is similar to useMemo, but it works for functions. applying all of these APIs, this is what I was able to get. So it has optimized the entire clip component, and none of those clip components are re-rendering with every change in the time on the timeline. Now, this looks nice, but it's very cumbersome and very hard. It took me days and weeks to figure out what is exactly changing and make sure optimizations are working correctly. Now, to combat this, in 2024, React team launched React Compiler in beta. And what this does is it applies automatic memoization in your React code base through static code analysis. Now, this is being used in production at Meta. So it's no longer an experiment or a tool, it's already in production, and soon we will also be adopting it in our own projects. Today, in 2025, React Compiler is in RC, which means most of the work is already done. The next step is to make it stable. So now is a good time to give it a try if you haven't and see how it works with your code bases. Now the compiler's goal is to ensure only relevant parts of your app re-render as the state changes. This is also known as fine-grained reactivity. When certain state changes, only the code that is dependent on that state should re-render, nothing else. And React Compiler does this all by performing static analysis of the code based on the rules of React. Let's take a look at what these rules of React are. You can check it out in the documentation. I'll just go over them briefly. So it says component hooks must be pure, and there are multiple different rules within this rule. The second one is React calls components and hooks, so you shouldn't call them directly as functions. Hooks should be called inside React components, and components should be used as JSX, not direct function calls. And finally, the rules of hooks that we are all familiar with. You should call hooks at the top level, not inside loops or conditionals. And you can call hooks only from React functions, which can be other components or hooks in the code base. Now, if any of these rules are broken, the compiler skips that particular component or the hook. So even if another hook is following these rules, that will get optimized, but the particular hook or component that fails these rules will get skipped. Now let's look at the kind of optimizations or memoization this React compiler adds to our code. So this is a small component from Slanted. It renders 2 input sliders, and let's see what happens when I pass this through the compiler. Very hard to read, very garbled code, but what you can understand is it does dependency analysis of different parts of your UI, of your logic, and it caches everything and only makes sure that the parts of the code run when those dependencies change. For people who think this is AI, I'm sorry, it's not. It's called static analysis. It's a very powerful technique that has been used since the dawn of programming languages. It just transforms your code and generates new code. It's not AI, OpenAI, GenAI, sentient AI, whatever. So how do we get started with React Compiler? You need to have React version 19. How many of you are using React version 19 in your production code bases today? Okay, there's like 3, 4. Okay, React 18. Wow, React 17. Okay, so people looking to switch jobs, make sure you don't join these companies. But yeah, if you are using React 18 or 17, or let's not go older, React 18 or 17, you can still opt into using compiler using the React compiler runtime package. The compiler depends on certain runtime APIs that are available in React version 19, but you can use this to get started as well. Docs has instructions to get started with Next.js. It works with React Native as well, so it's not something that's only for web, and you can follow the docs over there. There are 2 packages that you should be aware of. The Babel plugin React compiler, this is the compiler itself, and the ESLint plugin, which surfaces the errors that the compiler shows, which you can fix based on the rules of hooks, and the compiler will then optimize. My suggestion would be to start with the ESLint plugin today to prepare your code base for the React compiler in the future, and make sure to remember it's not necessary to optimize 100% of your app on the day one. It's fine if you start small. There are instructions to run compiler only in certain parts of your code base, and slowly you can expand it to the entire application. Let's take a look at the compiler output. So you can identify the optimizations that are being made by the compiler using the memo blue badge in the React DevTools. and it has already optimized quite a few components in my Slanted product. So inside Slanted, it memoized 218 components out of the 237 components or so I have. It's about 92% of the code base. And you have to note that I already did apply some optimizations manually before I adopted React Compiler. This was manual memoization in timeline because I noticed there were performance issues in that. And also something called micro global stores. I'll leave that as a suspense that you can await on after the talk. I instantly started seeing less re-renders in the unoptimized parts of the app. So when I'm changing the timeline, you can see very few things are re-rendering now. In fact, I think this is the unoptimized version. So it re-renders quite a lot of things inside the video player itself. But if I show you the optimized version, it actually doesn't render one particular track, and only inside the video player it renders just the slider which is changing. So optimizations already show some improvements. Now unfortunately, React Compiler is not a silver bullet. A silver bullet means something that just works instantly in a magical way. But it's not a silver bullet yet. And I know that the compiler team is working very hard so that you don't have to think about the edge cases or the caveats it has, and you can simply adopt it directly. Now the caveats that I encountered were, I realized certain parts of the application simply lost reactivity altogether. So to understand this is how I represent timeline in Slanted. It's a complex object, and there is a field inside this timeline called duration. It's a computed property. It calculates the duration based on all the tracks the timeline has. And there are multiple such computed properties all living inside this timeline. Now, my mistake was using this directly inside the render function, inside a component, to render the duration of the timeline directly. And while this did work, it was working because the video player component was re-rendering multiple times as the timeline was changing. So it appeared to work, but with the excessive re-renders removed, this component didn't render when the duration changed. And the compiler didn't complain. It thought it was semantically correct, which it is, because it just treated this as a global variable, and it realized it doesn't change, so we don't need to optimize for it. So here's the problem in action. Notice how the red circle, that's the duration of this video. I'm adding more clips, changing things around, it's not updating. When I try to resize or move the timeline, there is infinity nan, all those nasty things in the timeline. So I fixed this by using Vault.io. It's a package for adding proxy-based reactivity in your applications. This is a complex project, so it uses mutation-based updates at some parts. So I need to use something like this so that the state updates are targeted to certain parts of the store. And now the component only renders when the duration value changes. So if you encounter this particular problem when using the compiler, remember it's not the fault of the compiler. It's typically due to buggy code that appeared to work when there were excessive rendering. It can be caught with tests, but let's be honest, how many of us have tests? You can convert the unreactive parts of your state to reactive state if required to solve this issue. The second one is incorrect manual memorizations. So whenever the React compiler encounters certain components that are using use memo hooks, but the dependency array is incorrect, it simply ignores that hook or component. So let's take a look at an example. This is a hook that handles number inputs inside Slanted, and this particular function is a use callback hook. And if you notice a problem in this, well, this particular line where I'm passing the dependencies array, it doesn't have all the dependencies defined correctly that this function needs. There is a variable called min, max, step, all of these aren't included. So the compiler simply skips this and it decides it's not worth optimizing. So when you encounter such cases, it can have some cascading effect on other components that you have in your code base, and make sure the dependency array that you have in your custom use memo use callback calls are correct. Compiler tells you what's missing, so it's very useful. It will just point out that, hey, you have forgotten to add this thing which is changing, so you can just add it. And it can happen quite often, especially in large teams. Some developer changes something, they forget to update the dependency array, and your code is broken. You can fix the dependency array manually, or even better, just remove the use memo or use callback, because the compiler can handle it in a better way than you. Now, how do you find such compilation issues? As I mentioned, use the ESLint plugin that is already out. or you can also use the React compiler playground. It's a simple web-based tool where you can just paste the code. It doesn't require npm install or anything. Just paste the code, it will show you the output. You can understand how the compiler works and see the output and the errors that it shows. The third caveat was the external libraries that you use will not be optimized automatically unless the library itself uses the compiler during its build process. So this is another snapshot from the profiler. Notice how a lot of these accordion-based components are still re-rendering. They are not optimized by the compiler. These components are coming from a package that I use called ArcUI. It's similar to Radix UI or Chakra UI. And do note that these components, at least internally, won't be optimized by the compiler. The library author must adopt React compiler, and once it's built in their build pipeline, then you can adopt this updated library, and then you will see the optimizations. Not very ideal, but we can't really do much. I've also encountered sometimes the compiler's optimization isn't really ideal. And let's take a look at this with an example. So this is the same depth of field component that I have with 2 sliders. And now I'm rendering this whenever the enabled flag is true. Very typical React code that we write day to day. This is the output from the compiler. Now I don't know if you notice, this particular part, which is wrapped inside the conditional, is actually not the best way to optimize this component. The settings number for blur strength and focal radius both depend on blur and focal radius, which doesn't make sense. When blur changes, only the first slider should change or re-render. But in this case, the way it has been optimized, both will re-render when either of them changes. Now to fix this, in fact, let's see what the problem is. So when I change the focal radius, even the blur strength slider is re-rendering, which is not ideal because that hasn't changed at all. So to fix this, we can do some rewrite in the code. What I tried was, wow, okay. So what I tried was actually changing the ternary to be an iffy and then return with the if condition. And surprisingly, this works. The compiler now optimizes each slider individually, which is correct. But honestly, the code that I've written is not ideal. I don't want to see these kind of things in code reviews, right? The other way to fix this is extracting the conditional parts outside in a separate component, passing the dependencies as props, and then the compiler also picks it up. I have a feeling this will come into the compiler inherently, so we don't have to think about it. Extracting components is already supported. I think it's behind a flag, but I couldn't find it. But this is something that you might have to keep an eye out. Finally, the last part, measuring the impact of the compiler. You can use React Profiler or React Scan to see which components rendered and why. I've already showed the output of React Scan. It shows nice highlightings live when the component re-renders. You can also check for why a component re-renders simply by inspecting the component. So it's much better than React Profiler, which requires you to record and then trace the output. Here you can just select a component, change the UI, and you will instantly see why that component re-rendered. You can check it out at reactscan.com. And this is what my flame graph now looks like. So this was before, with all the short clips, all the clips in the timeline rendering. Now it has been reduced to this. So the video player is very optimized. The clips itself are optimized, but it is using a lot of third-party components as well, which is still re-rendering because they are not internally optimized. How does this affect real users? We have seen a lot of graphs, right? Well, I've noticed it negligibly increases the bundle size, so it's fine to use it. Similar FCP, LCP scores, all the components still have to render in the initial mount, so it's not really going to change that. It can slightly increase your parse time. It's hard to measure this, but this is my hunch because the code generated is very large. It has a lot of JavaScript conditionals, so maybe the parse time might be higher. But the most important thing to measure is the interaction to next paint. You can measure this using Performance tab or Lighthouse during development, or with tools like Sentry or PostHog, which will track INP across all your users and plot it in a nice graph. This is what I see for slanted. So this is before the optimization. Whenever I change the progress bar, you can see there is around 40 milliseconds, 44 milliseconds on average worth of time it takes to render the next frame. Now with the optimization, this reduces to around 24 milliseconds. So it is 44% reduced. And this is with the optimizations that I already applied. So do note that because this is a very performance intensive application, a lot of parts were already optimized. So in your case, you might see much bigger gains with something that's not very well optimized manually. With more changes, I was able to get the coverage to 94%, but do remember that you don't have to aim for 100%. It's fine if certain parts of your app do not get optimized. I still have some issues with refs. There is a rule in React. Gosh, there's so many rules, right? There is a rule which says you shouldn't use refs while rendering, but I need to because I know I'm smart and I'm applying my own optimization, so I ignore that compiler warning on my own. And finally, it's a great feeling to see that now lesser components are re-rendering and I can go back to writing buggy code that degrades performance again. With that, I have reached the end of this talk. Thank you for listening. You can check out Slanted, Twitter, website. This is not a UPI QR code. It's a website QR code, so you can scan and check it out. Thank you.
Awesome. Give it a round of applause for Akash. Did you enjoy the talk? Yeah? So many more such talks are lined up today and tomorrow, and we have workshop on day 3. So the next speaker that we have is a debutant as a conference speaker. He's a full stack developer. He lives and breathes front end, and when he's not doing front end, he probably writes SQL queries. People say he's a party dancer, and he also does stand-up comedy. He'll be doing today, tomorrow, or later in the conference itself. And in today's talk, he'll be talking about React context, breaking down its origin, challenges, and what's new with React 19 and React compiler. And this is the first ever talk he'll be giving as in any conference in general. And his first ever meetup talk was something that he gave on my first ever meetup. So I know him personally. And from first meetup to now first conference talk is a big deal. So give it a round of applause for Vadat.
Okay. A very good morning, everyone. My name is Vadat Parkar, and today I'm here to give talk on context with React 19. Before I tell you what context with React 19, I would first like to tell you everything about context, because you see, I believe that context is the most misunderstood tool in the entire React ecosystem. And my job today is to clear all those misconceptions and misunderstandings so that you can understand just how awesome context really is. Let's get started now. So what is context? You see, context is a solution. And to understand this solution, we need to understand what's the problem this solution was created for. So what's the problem? Prop drilling. Okay, over here I have an authentic counter app. Why authentic? Because it has no AI in it. It is clearly made by these authentic hands. And I would request you all to please kind of memorize this code base with me, because we are going to keep on optimizing this by the end of the talk. Okay, so it's a very simple code base. Okay, we have an app component. Inside the app component, we have the sidebar and the title, each sharing the count state. And inside the sidebar, we have again display count and reset count. And inside that, you can see that count and set count is getting shared. Over here, then we have the title component. In the title component, we have the heading and the button container. In the button container, in turn, we have the add button and subtract button. Okay, so this is the entire component hierarchy that we have. And as you can see, this is a totally unmintable piece of code. And this has some problems in it. Okay. First of all, if you ever want to create a new component, or you want to change the state from a deeply nested component, you have to keep on passing that set state function from the top level all the way to bottom, from one component to another, prop to prop. Even if that component is not using that prop, you have to still pass it. And you know, and this is like hell to maintain this, right? And lastly, like if you don't use TypeScript, right, God bless you. So let's see that what context brings as a solution. Okay. For those unfamiliar with the syntax of context, first you have to create a context, and after that you have to provide that for the component. So there's a dot provider property, and you have to pass in the value. Now inside the value, anything can be there. The state, set state, dispatch, function variable, anything that you want these components to have access to, you pass it and wrap it over there. And as you can see, right, no longer we are passing it from the sidebar to display component. We are directly consuming the context with using a hook called as use context, which consumes the context to get us that value, and we are directly using this. As of a result, you can see things have gotten so much simpler, right? Just look at the code. Just look at the code, okay? So beautiful, so elegant, just looking like a wow. So what is context? Context is a dependency injection mechanism. What is not a context? Context is not a state management tool. I repeat, context is not a state management tool. Context is a tool to share data or state across components. Take a breathe in, breathe out. That's not air, that's misconception leaving your body. And now we'll get to the misunderstandings, okay? So I believe that people misunderstand context because they don't understand the rendering behavior of context. And before we understand this, we need to understand what's the rendering behavior of React, right? And for this, right, we have the prop-link authentic app. And as you can see, I've set up a React scanner to see all the re-renders happening whenever the state changes. And as you can see, right, whenever I change the count state, the entire app is lighting up like a Christmas tree. Why is that, you may ask? That's because we have defined a state inside the app component. And React has a rule, okay? Anytime a parent component re-renders, all the child component re-render recursively. It doesn't matter if the props change, don't change, even if you don't give prop, they will still re-render. And that parent component re-renders, that child will re-render recursively. And context over here will not help you much because you have defined the state inside the app. App will have other components, right? So all of them are going to get re-rendered. And because of this, right, let's have like a simple thing. We'll just take our state management away from this. So let's say I have an apply context component, and inside that component, I have declared the state count and I have wrapped up all the components that I wanted to share. And as you can see that, okay, entire app is not re-rendering, the heading does not re-render. But yes, the circle still continues, all of the app are re-rendering. And why is that? That's because provider is also a component. And when that re-renders, all the child components re-render. That's the reason. For this, we have a very simple solution, okay? We'll use something called as children. So children is a special keyword in React. What it does is that it passes the reference of the components to that component. So at that point, they are no longer parent-child relationship, there are siblings relationship, each unaffected by each other's re-renders. And with this, what will happen? That good. Now, not all the components are re-rendering, but you may still point out, okay, why are the buttons getting re-rendered? Well, that's because context has a rule. Components which consume a context will always re-render. To better explain this, I have an example for you. Over here, we have declared another title state, and we're going to pass it in the value. So context, right, its rule behaves such as that whenever any of the values changes, right, it destroys the value and recreates it, and it forces a re-render in all the components which has consumed that particular context, even if the value has not changed. And to show you live, right, I have over here a heading. In the heading, I have consumed and called the title state. We are not even going to display it, we're just going to let it chill over there. And you can see, right, whenever I'm changing the count state, the heading is also getting re-rendered. Why is that? That's because components which consume a context always re-render. In this particular scenario, that's why what you should always do is that you should always split your context. If you ever see your state is there unnecessarily re-rendering, just split it up, create a new provider, provide it, consume it, and you can see that, okay, the heading no longer re-renders. But yes, the buttons are still re-rendering. What do we do about that? We can't do much because, you know, components that consume a context re-render when any value of the context changes. That, my friends, is the single greatest reason why people hate context. Can't blame them. So this is a problem, right? What's the solution for this? Well, these are the solutions. State management library. Can you say what's your favorite one among this? Nice, Redux. I can see you're very experienced folks. Zeus then, okay. So I have a problem with this, okay? My first problem is that every month I wake up, I see a new state management library. And then we have to learn it, what's the differences, how is it different, if you want your team to adopt it, all of them have to learn it, there's a learning curve involved. And most difficult part is that you have to learn how to pronounce their names. Can you pronounce this one? Zustan, na? It's German, it's pronounced as Justan. Will you pronounce it as Justan from now on? Great, perfect, thank you. Now you will understand why I pronounce wheat as white pen. Well, jokes apart, guys, I would like to ask, like, is this really the solution that we have to settle for as a community? Just because a component re-render when it consumes a context, does it mean that we abandon context altogether? Is that really the case? If that's the case, then I would like to ask you all a question on the stage of React Nexus, right? Philosophical question. Are re-renders even bad?
are re-renders even bad? You'll be like, of course, for that, the entire Twitter says it's bad. I don't know what the Twitter says. I want to know, do the docs say that they are bad? We don't know that. We are JavaScript devs. We don't read docs, we write them. Okay, so I'll give you the number one argument why re-renders are considered bad. It's because of functions in JavaScript, right? So JavaScript, right, since it's a single threaded language, it's, if it encounters a function, it's not going to go to the render block unless and until the computation has finished. And in case it's a very expensive function, it's going to get stuck over there and you're going to see a damn like white block. And I am saying that, okay, that's a bad practice. Okay, what you do is that you separate your re-render logic and your expensive function. Okay, maybe pass it as children or something, and you keep your re-renders in simple component. Now, what is a simple component, you may ask? A simple component, in my definition, is a component which has no React hooks in it, no state updates, no JavaScript function, no logic, no nothing. It's just a simple chunk of thing getting re-rendered. And then you may ask, okay, what's the cost of re-rendering a simple component? I have done my homework. According to MDN, right, a website needs to be run at 60 FPS if you want good user experience, especially in case of animations. And if you divide that, right, so one frame you get like 16.7 millisecond of a budget. Within those time, you need to complete everything, right? Your React re-render, your state update, your DOM manipulation, JavaScript function execution, your DOM layout, everything should be done within 16.7 milliseconds. Okay, and the cost of a re-render, a simple component re-render in React on average is 0.01 millisecond, and worst case is 0.1 millisecond. And the cost of a browser div repaint is always less than 1 millisecond. So you need to understand that in React, your re-renders are never a problem. If you feel that, okay, re-rendering is what causing my app to be slow, no, it's not because of re-renders. It's because those re-renders go ahead and, run all those expensive functions, DOM layout, calculation, state update, React code. That is what causes your app to be slow, not your re-renders. And in React, guys, React re-renders are not your enemy. Re-renders are how React works, right? If it doesn't re-render a component, right, it's not able to create a VDOM. It creates a new VDOM, compares it with the old, checks the differences, pushes the difference on the DOM commit. This new VDOM re-render, this is like 0.01 millisecond on average. This browser DOM update is 6 millisecond on average. So re-renders are not your enemy. When you see a component getting re-rendered only once, perfect, fine, it's beautiful. Leave it alone. Please go solve your Jira tickets. And now we come to context with React 19. So React 19 just brings syntax changes to context, okay? First, we are getting rid of like dot provider. Now you can directly wrap it in context. Why? Because, like drop the provider, just context is cleaner. And then, okay, we have like the use API. So, the React 19 use API, right? So now you can use the use API to consume promises instead of the use context hook. And one great thing about this is that now you can conditionally call the context, or conditionally consume this. And you may ask, what is great about this? We shall learn it the hard way. Now we come to the React compiler, okay? So React compiler gives a huge boost to context, okay? It's a huge one, okay? I have a simple trick for you. What you do is that when you have a sidebar, right, you keep a simple component and consume your context inside that simple component. And then you pass it as props to the components which actually want to use. So what this happens is that since compiler auto-memorizes all the components, right, it's not going to re-render that component unless the value has changed. And you may ask, okay, well, this is prop drilling. This is not prop drilling. Prop drilling is when you go 4 levels down. This is just, let's say, lifting the state up, all right? And the result of this is very simple, right? The buttons are no longer re-rendering. Then you may point out, okay, but I can see button container display count is clearly re-rendering. Yes, but they are simple components. Simple components have virtually zero computational cost. But I agree this is a compromise, but only for now because React team is working on fixing this. And once they do, they are going to make context great again. And hopefully end all the state management libraries. We have reached the end of the talk, and I always end my talk with a developer joke because I believe that laughter is very important, especially in this economy. So here I go. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. A PR a day keeps the PM away. Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice day.
Is my voice audible? Cool. Thank you so much, Fadat, for the wonderful talk. And did you guys felt it? Was it his first talk? No, right? I know he's incredible. He has incredible stage presence. The way he gives talk and everything. All right, cool. With that, we will be having our next speakers. So the talk that we have next will teach you how you can build scalable micro front end without any chaos. So, and this particular talk shares story of how you can scale massive React application with over 50 micro front ends, and how you can divide it in between 15 plus teams, and while keeping everything fast, clean, and developer friendly. So give it up for Padamjit Singh, who's the Senior Director of Engineering at GoDaddy, and Shruti Bansal, who's SD3 at GoDaddy. Give it a round of applause.
Morning, everyone. I'm so excited. We are so excited to be here. Just a quick show of hands. How many people know about GoDaddy? Perfect. Looks like our brand marketing team is doing a good job. So we are here as primary sponsors, and we are a big React shop internally. We will be talking about a session, and I'm no React expert, but I thought I'll take this opportunity. So with me, my colleague Shruti Bansal, she's going to be going a lot more in depth on the React stuff. But we are who are we, right? And the reason why I'm taking time to talk about it is because GoDaddy is just mostly known for domains. But I thought I'll use this opportunity to tell a bit more. We are a trusted growth partners to millions of entrepreneurs globally. And we are one of the largest platforms which enables all the help, all the tooling, all the systems that an entrepreneur, and I think 21 plus million such customers now, need to really grow and flourish their online business. So from the perfect domain name to a good looking secure website, to having your perfect digital marketing, social engagement, great professional email, the top-notch hosting services, and of recently payments and commerce solutions as well, though that's more in the US and Canada side. I think GoDaddy offers pretty much 360 degree of what a digital entrepreneur needs today. From an engineering perspective, and that's my passion area, we invest a lot in the design, theming, the user experience and the user interfaces. And we work in a highly experimentation-driven mindset. And we've made a lot of good strides in solving complex problems. The reason why you see a big portfolio here is because they're all very customer-facing systems and products. And I'm not even talking about the systems that we have in-house and internally. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Shruti to talk about micro front ends without the chaos and architecture that actually scales.
Thank you, Padam. So hi everyone, I'm Shruti, and today I'll be walking you through the micro front end without the chaos architecture that survives the scale. So when I joined GoDaddy, the team size was not that big, and to roll out a feature on production, it used to take only a few weeks. And with time, the team got bigger, and so does our code base. Now to roll out a feature on production, it used to take a lot more time. Since we were following the monolith structure, we started facing the following issues. Teams were blocked by each other. We had the inconsistent UI. If one team pushed something buggy, it used to break entire application. We were having deployment bottlenecks. How many of you have faced deployment delays due to some other team? Yeah, I guess everyone. Yeah. So also, this was happening with our team as well. Also, scaling required scaling everything. If we wanted to scale something for our team, we had to scale it for some other team as well. Also, we had the technology lock-ins. If we wanted to upgrade some library, we had to upgrade the dependencies and much more. So our team thought, what if our front ends would scale like a backend? what if we have something which can be developed independently, deployed independently, we have the team autonomy, and we can use a different technology. So the solution to this came the micro front end. Micro front end, how many of you know micro front ends? Yeah, every one of you. So it was the architecture we needed because it will change the things. So I'll give you an example what micro front end is for those who don't know. Micro front end, you can think of it like a shopping mall. So in a shopping mall, we have multiple stores and those stores operate independently. Similarly, micro front end, we have micro front ends where we can make multiple applications and those can work together seamlessly. Those are independent, deployable front-end applications which work together seamlessly and can be developed, tested, and deployed. And it present in a single shell app. But with micro front-end, earlier it was working fine because we were only creating 4 to 5 micro front-end and that was easy to maintain. But our team grew even bigger and we started creating even more micro front ends and we were facing challenges with the scaling of micro front ends. So these are the challenges we faced while scaling the micro front end. The first challenge was common config setup. Whenever other teams used to create micro front ends, there was a lot of code duplication since we had to do the manual configuration setup for authentication, styling, localization, and much more. So that was a issue. The second issue was fragmented user experience. Since each team was developing their own components, we were facing a lot of issues with the inconsistent UI. Also, we were compromising with the brand consistency. The third issue was performance overhead. Now, each and every micro front end has their own dependencies, their packages. So there was a lot of code duplication, and when that was bundled, it had the duplicate code and the bundle size was very big. The other issue was communication complexity. There was no way where two micro front ends can communicate between each other. There were ways, but those were not performant. We had browser object, but that was not performant. Then the main issue we were facing was dev and build complexity. So we were able to develop a micro front end in a standalone mode, but there were no way where we can verify our micro front end with the other micro front ends. So let's say if I want to verify my micro front end with the other micro front ends, I had to clone the repos of other micro front ends and then build that locally, and then only I was able to verify it. And also, if there is a issue on production, there is no way without deploying that micro front end to the production, and I can't verify that. The other issue was versioning and deployment. Since we had so many micro front end, it was unclear which version is deployed where, and there was no centralized way where I can see which version is present on the production for the micro front end. So to solve these problems, our team came up with scaling solutions. The first one is common config setup. So we integrated Gascade with single SPA and created an application structure where we had the GoDaddy services and the shared modules that we need not to embed in a micro front end and can be used from the shell app itself. So now to create a micro front end, what we did, we created a generator using which a micro front end can be created. Now it's very simple to create a micro front end. We just have to create a repo, add that repo to the runners pool, then clone the repo, then install our generator and run the generator, and tada, we have a micro front end. So that micro front end had all the infra setup which we need to communicate with the GoDaddy shell application. The other issue was the design system. We solved it by creating our in-house design system where we had component library so the brand consistency is not compromised, and we have the predefined themes, predefined intents. They had the localization support, default accessibility, and everything which was required. The other problem we solved was performance. So we were having the performance issues due to the bundle size. What we did, we we used rollup to externalize those bundles which are shared across the micro front ends, and we added that to the shell app so that it can be used by each and every micro front end. Also, we added the routing on the shell app level, so whenever user navigates across multiple micro front ends, they get smooth experience. Also, we were earlier loading the micro front ends all together in one go, so the initial load time was very high. We started fetching micro front ends on demand using System.js and version API. Also, we started prefetching the common routes. So the micro front ends which we know the user might navigate to, we started to prefetch those in asynchronously in parallel. Now the communication management. For communication, we created shared header, shared navigation. These were again micro front ends, so user can get a smooth experience. For state management, we created global stores. We use shared context and just stand for global store. The main thing is we migrated our query and caching to the shell app part. So we leveraged caching over here. If one micro front end is making a request, is making an API request, so that API request is being cached, and if that is used by some other micro front end, the cached version can be used. The routing again is done on the shell app level, and styling, we have created our in-house design system. Now we come to the dev and build improvement. So we had the main problem with the dev build. We were unable to verify our micro front end with the other micro front end. So for this, we created a custom dev tools to simplify this process. Using those dev tools, you can, let's say you created a PR. So a version is created for that PR as well. You can verify that PR with other micro front ends on any environment. Even if you make some local changes, those can be overridden even on the production, and you can verify your local changes on the production. Your micro front end can be verified in the standalone mode as well, and PRs can be tested on any environment. The other thing is versioning and deployment. So there was no centralized view where we can see which version is deployed where. So we created a centralized view where we can see which version is present on the production. It also had the ability where we can roll back or roll out any feature. Let's say if we have something buggy on the production and we want to roll back, we had an application, a centralized view where it is only a single click away. We can click that button and we can roll back to the previous commit. Whenever a PR closes, the version is cleared. It was auto handled, and all the main changes, whenever the main changes, the new version is deployed on all the environments. And each end micro front end has its own dependencies and CI/CD flow. So that was also managed. This architecture enabled us to deploy our micro front end independently. Now, what are the improvements we got using SPA, our architecture? Earlier, only 2 to 3 teams were working, but when we scaled, it was hard to manage micro front ends with these many teams. Now, more than 15 globally distributed teams are working together and creating micro front ends. We have created more than 50 micro front ends, and those are working fine. The uptime is almost 100%. Our deployment time is, earlier the deployment used to take more than an hour, now it's less than 5 minutes. We are rolling out approximately 15 features per week. Also, earlier there used to be a lot of code conflict. It has been reduced to 98%. I guess I have completed before time, but that's fine. Yeah. Thank you. For live demo and more information, you can visit our booth. It's outside. Thank you.
Yes, guys, we'll be having a break now after a couple of minutes. Before that, we just want to say that, I mean, before last time, as we were having some questions. So who are the pending ones? We don't want to leave it anybody. So I think somebody was raising a hand, right, for that questions. Remember, anybody from that row? Yeah, from there, somebody? Raise hands. Yeah, can somebody please help us with the mic?
Hi everyone.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Side. So this is my funny story, like how I started my journey and how I joined my company in which I am working right now. So
guys, just be there for I mean, just be seated over there for some time. Just for 5 minutes of time. Definitely we'll be having a break. Just 5 minutes more.
Yeah. So when I was in college, in my second and third year, I am working as a freelancer for the company in which I am working as a full-time right now. So that time I'm working on a WordPress, and I'm working as a WordPress user, not a WordPress developer. I hope some of you know the difference between the WordPress user and the developer. So that time I'm working as a WordPress user. Basically, we just use a theme and plugin and create the website in our college time. And when I was working as a freelancer for this company, there's a one lady, I won't say her name. She is the one who gave me the task. So she is a basically mediator between this company and me. So one day she opened one Figma, and I saw some flights and details are there. So I like, okay, what is that? So she said, we are going to work on one project, and that is Akasa Airlines. So she said, we are going to hire a few more people, and if you know React, you can come with us. So that time I know only the basics of React, and I was like, okay, let's give a try. At that time I just completed my college. My college is completed by then. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. I know the theoretical part, but if you give me a chance to get an interview, I'll try to be selected and start working on it. So after that, I got my job in this company, and I got I become a full-time employee here. And that's the first project on which I worked as a React developer. It's Akasa Airlines.
Context
And
wala.
the one more funniest part is I remember my joining is on 16th March. And my company said, okay, my interview is completed on 15th. So they gave me one task on WordPress again, on which project I'm working as a freelancer in that time. So they said, okay, this is the task, can you do it? I said, okay, if you want me to do that task, this is a particular amount you have to pay me. So they said, you are already hired. I say, okay, but I am hired, but still my joining is from 16 March. It's 15 March. So they said, okay, then do it tomorrow.
Nice. Now, Pritish, you can take over the speech. Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about all the contests that are happening right now inside of this conference. So I'll quickly show you this. So we are having this image kit contest going on. So you can check out the image kit booth outside, and you'll get a chance to win brand new Apple AirPods and Keychron keyboard. Next we have Vonage. So you can get a chance to win Vonage swags. Just go to the booth and talk about how you're using Vonage, and what type of APIs you're using for Vonage, and you will get a chance to win exclusive Vonage swags. Then we have Asgadios as our sponsors, where you'll get a chance to get premium features of the platform. Just sign up with this particular QR code, this particular coupon code, and you'll get premium features of the platform. Then next we have Zoho, Catalyst by Zoho. So you'll be getting a chance to win brand new Sony XM4. Just attend the workshop, happening on 5th of July at 1 p.m. and you'll get a chance to win these headphones. Next up, we have the GoDaddy quiz contest. So first of all, you have to scan this QR code. You can scan it right away in order to participate. You can scan the QR code.
We are holding this for few seconds. You can scan it, the QR code for the quiz.
So once you scan the QR code, it will open a form, a quiz form. You need to fill the quiz, submit that quiz, and once you're done submitting that, and you have to submit it by 4 p.m. today. Once you're done submitting the form, you can go to the GoDaddy booth or go there and register. Once you're done registering, then you will be qualified to be a winner, one of the 4 winners which we'll be announcing by the end of the day today, and you'll be getting exclusive swags from GoDaddy. I'm holding the QR for some time. All right. Last but not the least, we are back with the selfie contest again. We did it last year as well. And all you need to do is you need to take a selfie with some of your friends, or you can make connections. You can take it with speakers. You can take it with us. You can take it with volunteers, or you can go to sponsor booths, anywhere. Just go ahead and take selfies with people and share it on Twitter or LinkedIn. Make sure you tag React Nexus and use the hashtag React Nexus 2025 so that we will be able to figure out your selfies, and you the results will be announced tomorrow around 5-6 p.m. and make sure you do it by tomorrow 2 p.m. so that we get some time for evaluation. So yeah, take as many selfies as you can. Write your experiences over socials, and yeah, and you'll be part of the selfie contest.
And the prizes are not restricted to only t-shirts. So there is going to be exclusive prizes for that. So feel free to participate in all the contests for this, even for every sponsors. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
Yeah, so there will be, as she mentioned, exclusive swags from React Nexus side. So yeah, this is a good example of how a selfie can look like. So yeah, thank you so much. You can enjoy your tea break. We'll be back starting with the next talk soon.
And this pictures or slides will be in the loop in lunch break. If you haven't taken a picture of QR code, you will get to see in the lunch break. It will be in loop here itself. You can come anytime in the lunch break and just see it there and scan it. Okay.
So break will be for 30 minutes, so you can get back here.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
So please get back by 11:45 as per the time now. Yeah.
Last time,
Check 1 2 2 2. Check, hello, check. Mic check 1 2 2 2. Check, 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 check. Hello. Check 1 2. Check, hello.
Hello. Hello, hello, 1, 2, 3.
नहीं मेरे 12 के मार्क्स नहीं इससे बहुत बेटर थे मेरे कितने
हम ऐसे लोगों के साथ बात ही नहीं कर रहे
भाई
हेलो
सुन
93% इसके हम लोग को बिना 93% फिर भी साथ खड़े हैं ना क्या उखाड़ लिया
but which board
Check. Hello. Hello.
अरे यार यही है या मेरे पास ना 4 लैंग्वेजेस इंग्लिश हिंदी संस्कृत बस यही है ना अरे एक्चुअली मेरे को फुल स्क्रीन नहीं करना है सॉरी एक सेकंड यार मेरे को ना फुल स्क्रीन नहीं करना है आई
हेलो
Hello guys, yes, the break is over, so we are going to start within few minutes of time. So before that, I just want to announce one thing about the LinkedIn contest, which is from GoDaddy. Yeah. Yes, so as you have seen, as you're watching right now, the LinkedIn contest. So as before the break, which we have announced, there was a 2 contest from our side and 1 GoDaddy. But now we have joined the hands with GoDaddy, and there will be only 1 contest, to be very, very clear. So if you have posted, you can just edit that, and you can just click the pictures from their booth, and please post in the LinkedIn by tagging React Nexus and GoDaddy Live, just to ensure you just put as a tagging, not a hashtag, @React Nexus and @GoDaddy Live. Then only you will be eligible for the winner, actually. So this is very important. And use GoDaddy Live also, and you can tag as well. There are both the options. So you can take a snapshot of this one if you require. So this will be till 2 p.m. tomorrow, and then winner will be announced at the evening time. Okay, so this is very important. So today and tomorrow this contest is there. Only 1 contest for the pictures, for the selfie. Okay, I hope it's clear, everybody. Yeah. So now we will be moving to the second phase of speaker right now. And his name is Alok Kumar Singh, and he's a front-end engineer too at Cash-Free Payments, working on a scalable and high-performance React application for 4 lakh plus merchants. And he's a passionate about clean, efficient UI architecture. And the best thing is about him, outside of coding, you will find him on the cricket and playing badminton as well. So can we have a huge round of applause for him, please?
Hello, hello. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are not feeling sleepy after a tea session. So let's get started with the today's agenda. I would like you to think of an app that never freezes, irrespective of how many lists you are rendering, how many searches you type, or how many clicks you did. Yeah. That's the React fiber for you. It breaks your task into chunks, prioritize your task, and make your UI smooth and accessible. So today we are going to discuss how React fiber work under the hood, and by using its feature, how we can create lightning fast modern web app. Okay. So before diving into it, let's a small intro about myself. I'm a front-end engineer too at Cash Free Payments. I'm a part of core PG team, and apart from it, I love playing around with React internals. So with that, let's get started with our fiber. First of all, we have to ask ourselves, why fiber? Why do we even need it fiber in the first place? So for understanding this, we have to understand how React used to render your component tree before React fiber. So it traverses your entire component tree whenever you make any changes to your state and props, and it uses deep DFS to compare your old virtual DOM with the new one, and it apply all your DOM changes in one go. Hence, it will pause the browser from doing other stuff. So, do you see the problem here? The first one is no preemption. That means if React start your rendering task, it won't stop. It won't stop till it render your entire update. So let's understand this with an example. Let's say you have a search box and a long list of items. Now your long list is rendering, and a user clicks on the input box. So there user feel laggy because a long list is rendering. Since React has started the task, it won't stop in between. The second one is deep stack calls. That means it goes all the way up or down to check to compare the nodes, and hence the browser lost the control. The last one is blocking update. That is, browser will not have the control while it is painting, since this goes in all go. Let's understand this with a real world scenario. Let's say we want to create a multi-cuisine meal, and we have our two chefs, the old chef, which is our stack reconciler, and the new chef is our React fiber. So what will our old chef do? It will start cooking one by one. It won't stop. And if any dish got delayed, the entire meal will be delayed. Hence, the user will be frustrated. User will be hungry. Whereas in case of our new chef, it can prioritize dishes, it can pause cooking to serve appetizer, and respond to the special request. This ensures that user have something on their plate before like any complex food is being cooked behind the scene. So this smoother dining experience, where kitchen you can think of as a browser, remains responsive even during the complex meal preparation. Now we know why React fiber, why do we need it? But what the heck is this React fiber? So React fiber was a complete rewrite of old stack reconciler algorithm back in React 16. It had three major agenda. The first one was incremental rendering. That means it will break your task into chunks and process over multiple frames. The second one is prioritization. That means it will handle urgent tasks first and defer the less important work. The third one is concurrency. That means it can pause your rendering task, start or even abort your rendering task. We will go deep into all these fundamentals. But first of all, let's understand how fiber node look like. So each fiber represent a unit of work. That means every work, every update, every work that you define in your React component is a React fiber. And each fiber is connected with the other fiber in the component tree to create the entire fiber node structure. It has two major functionalities. The first one is the core properties. That means what this node contains. So this fiber node has type property. What are the type of this node? The second one is key, which is a unique identifier of that fiber node. The third one is the state node, which is how it is, like what are the state it holds. And the second one is the tree structure. That means how this node is connected with the other node in this component tree. So it has 3 pointers. The first one is return pointer, which points to the parent fiber. The child, which means the first child fiber. The sibling pointer, which points to the next sibling of the fiber node. Let's understand more this with example. Let's say we have our component structure on the right side with div as key root, and it has 2 children, span 1 and span 2 with the key, right? And on the left side, you can see how this fiber node is connected with each other. The div is connected to span 1 with a child pointer, and the span 1 is connected with span 2 with a sibling pointer. And now these two, span 1 and span 2, is connected to the root fiber with the help of this return pointer. This is how a full-fledged fiber tree gonna create. So if you want to understand in a plain simple terms, so everything that you defined in your JSX is a React fiber object, which holds what is the type, what is the unique identifier associated with it, and how it is connected to the other fiber object in the tree. So this is about the structure of the fiber node, right? But how this is connected, like when it will get rendered on the UI. So for that, we have to understand these two concepts. Like we have double buffering, which has 2 major properties, like the current tree and the work in progress tree. So what are these? So the current tree is actually what you see on your UI. It is the live UI that you see on the screen. It can't be changed. It is uninterruptible. Whereas work in progress tree is an exact replica of your current tree. It can be changed since React has created this work in progress tree in memory. So this is where we update all our changes, whether to create node, append node, or update node. The next one is work loop phases. This is the way React renders your UI on the screen. It does in two phases. The first one is the reconciliation phases, and the second one is the commit phase. So what is happening in reconciliation phase? That is the render phase also. Whenever you update any state, it will trigger the render phase. This will clone the current fiber tree, then run its render function, then compare the old versus div, and a full-fledged work in progress tree is created. And all this process is interruptible in nature. That means React can pause these steps, render phase, and give back control to the browser to do other stuff. We will discuss that in later phases. Once this work in progress tree is ready, React immediately moved into the commit phase. So this is where the commit phase start looking into the effect list, that what are the changes being happened in the node. So it will look into the work in progress tree and calls all the updates to the real DOM. And this is happening in parallel. So it clears the work in progress tree from the memory. At the same time, it updates the root. That is where the changes are happened. So now at the end, UI shows the new state. Now this commit phase is non-interruptible in nature. Once React starts this commit phase, it can't stop it. So the next one is, as we saw in the reconciliation phase, like we will be majorly covering the render phase, since this is the crux of React Fiber, because this is where our control, like we have the control. So first of all, we have to understand how this diffing work, like how they compare one node versus the other. The first one is the same type. So React will look, okay, I have div, and the second one is after update is also a div, but the style is changed. That means it will keep the node and it will only update that property. But if it is a new type, let's say we have changed the div from div to span, then it will destroy the entire subtree and create a new subtree from there. The third one is key. As we all know, React remembers the ordering of the list you render on the UI. So if the key is not present, that means React does not have a context in what. So every time you make any change, it will re-render the entire list again. But if you intelligently assign a unique key, that means the React will remember the ordering and only update those list item that is being changed. So now this is the diffing basic. But what is happening in the reconciliation phase? Let's understand. Let's go a little bit deep inside the reconciliation phase. So reconciliation phase, on the top level, call these two functions, begin work and complete work. These two functions are recursive in nature. The begin work is like works as a top to bottom, whereas the complete work works as a bottom to up. So begin work will process your current node and create, like, call the begin work again for a child till it processes. So this begin work is responsible for collecting all your effects. It won't create your work in progress tree. Whereas complete tree will look into all the changes that is being provided by the begin work. So, and create the updated node in the fiber tree. And at the end, these two will collectively create a work in progress tree. So this was the reconciliation phase. The next one is the commit phase. So after reconciliation is complete, React enter into the commit phase. And this commit phase changes are like the entry point for this phase is commit root, like which processes the effect in 3 phases. The first one is before mutation, like it will collect all the state of the current DOM if needed. And the second one is mutation. This is where the insertion and updation of node is being done on the real DOM. The third one is layout. This is where the UI get painted and work in progress tree get cleared from the memory. And remember, this commit phase is synchronous and uninterruptible in nature. That means React will complete all the layouting thing without stopping. Now remember, we discussed like Project Fiber has 3 major functionalities. The first one was priority. But how React knows that this task will get higher priority? This task I'm talking about update, any state change. So scheduler and lanes comes into the picture. So you can think lanes as a multiple channel with the priority associated with it. So that means, let's say I have done a click event that updated the state change, it will move to one channel. So whenever a React scheduler comes to pick the updates from this channel, it will first check the priority list. Okay, this updates have a higher priority. I will pick this, and if it is doing some low priority task like prefetching the data and all, it will abandon the task and go for the higher priority task. So what are these lanes? How React will assign all this? So these are the 5 lanes. The sync lane, which is the immediate, that means if you add your updates into the sync lane, that means it will immediately get invoked into the render tree. The second one is input discrete lane. This is for all the input, it will all for the input user interaction events. The third one is default, which is for data fetching and all. Like if you do not assign or wrap your updates into any scheduler, then React will assign this default lane. The fourth one is the transition lane. This is a non-urgent UI. This we basically, as in the React 19, they have introduced use start transition hook that will mark any expensive rendering task as a non-urgent task, which will not hamper the user interaction. The last one is idle. That means it has the lowest priority for the rendering part. So how React assign this? So React first of all check whether the update has start transition or not. If it is a start transition, then get the fourth lane. If not, then it will give the default update, default lane. But if you explicitly assign like a flush sync or use scheduler callback with idle property, then it will mark all those lanes, all those updates to the respective lanes. So that means default lane will be the default priority of any update that React will assign. So the first one is input handler. So whenever you click on any button that will change the UI, it will get input discrete lane. That means the second priority. But if you want that things to happen fast, like you want React to pick it on a priority base, you can wrap it inside the flush sync function that is being provided by React. Now the second one is animation and input. This will get the input discrete lane. That means if you do not assign any function, it will get the input discrete lane. The third one is the default lane. So the input discrete lane will assign to only input events by default. By default, all the input events will get input discrete lane. The third one is our default lane. So let's say you are updating any UI, doing any set state, that will immediately move to this default lane. The fourth one is transition. If you wrap your update under start transition, that will goes to this. The last one is the ideal lane. You have to wrap your updates with scheduler callback with idle priority. So all these lane prioritization enable React to make intelligent decision. Like it will interrupt the low priority task with the higher priority task, so that the most important interaction feel instantaneous to the user. So the second feature that we discussed for the React Fiber was it will break your task into chunks, right? So let's understand this with example. So that term is called time slicing. So what is the life without time slicing and what is with? So as you can see in the example, we have expensive filter. So that is going to like fetch or list a large list of data. So this filter, whenever the React see this state, since we are not wrapping anything here, it will start executing. It will got the default lane. It will start executing since default lane have the higher priority. But whereas in case of time slicing, we have wrapped that start transition. We have wrapped that expensive filter under the start transition. That will mark this expensive filter as a less priority. That means if any urgent task comes, React will immediately stop this expensive filter updates and do that task on priority. But how React does this under the hood? Like how React pull this off? So first of all, it do in 3 phases. So first one is scheduler deadline. That means React scheduler keep track of each update that you do on the UI. So that means it can pause while processing. So once the updates are done, it will ask the browser, do I yield to the browser? That means, can I give control back to you? If yes, then it will stop the rendering, the reconciliation phase, and let the browser handle all the painting part if there is any priority task come. So this incremental rendering approach is what allow React to keep your app responsive even during complex update that would otherwise block the main thread. Let's say if React scheduler won't call your browser before every update. That means if any priority task that like user interaction comes, it will deprioritize the task. So that's why scheduler, yield, decision point, and browser interaction, all these phases are responsible for breaking down your work into chunks and then rendering into a different phases. The next one is the concurrent rendering. All the concept that we read till now is combined give you the concurrent rendering for React. So for the first one, that is scheduler plus lane. Here the updates are tagged with lanes representing different priority. React scheduler intelligently select the highest priority lane to process the process first. Now in the render phase, so every time you see React is doing two tasks. It is rendering your UI tree, whereas it will also keep in check the browser. Do I need to give control back to you or not? So in the render phase, while begin work on each fiber node calls, after each fiber node is processed, React will call this should yield to host function to check if browser need the control or not. And the fourth one is commit phase. This is atomic. This is like we can't do much here since this is synchronous in nature and non-interruptible. So here work in progress completes, commit root is executed and all DOM mutation are done. So at this phase we have to make sure that our work in progress tree is in a much optimized way. Like we are not doing unnecessary render or changing like a list. We are not assigning some random key to that. And the fourth one is API integration. So by using start transition, that will help the React to mark any expensive or complex task as a lower priority, will help React to interact with the browser effectively. That means browser will do the important task first, then the task which is marked in start transition. And the second one is suspense. Suspense allow the subtree to pause rendering until we get the entire data. So these two create a very prioritized rendering experience. So till now we have learned how React fiber work, what is the React fiber, and how we can how we can understand different phases of React fiber. But as you can see, the rendering phase is the most important phase in the React. So it is our duty to make sure that this rendering phase is optimized as much as possible. For that, as you know, the IDs are the top priority, because what can hamper your UI is a long complex task or listing down a long list. So effectively assigning a unique key to each list will help React to not re-render the entire tree for that. The second one is, as render phase is expensive, so try to use React memo and use callback as much as possible, where you think you can stop this rendering cycle, like you can stop the number of rendering you do. The last one is use of transition. Wherever you feel that this task is expensive and it gonna block my UI, wrap it inside the start transition. That will help browser to do the most important task, which is the user interaction first. So with that, I completed my talk. Thank you so much. And I follow all these resources to learn more about React Fiber and all. If you have any question, feel free to reach out to me over my Twitter account. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you so much. Trust me, it is really phenomenal to get all the insights from you. So we'll be moving to the next speaker of the day now. His name is Vignesh, and he is a developer relations engineer at Catalyst by Zoho. He's been at Zoho as an engineer for the past 9 years and is passionate about cloud computing. And he will talk about transforming front-end deployment fast, fluid, and frictionless. Can we have a huge applause for him, please?
Hey everyone, can you all hear me loud and clear? Okay. Uh, I forgot the clicker, sorry. Yeah, so my name is Vignesh. I'm from the Catalyst team here at Zoho, and thanks for the introduction as well. And we're very excited to be a part of the React Nexus event, and even more excited to share with all of you as to what we are doing to make front-end deployments fast, fluid, and frictionless. Okay, there it is. So almost any modern web application or website today probably uses one of these frameworks or other frameworks that are based on React or anything else, right? And we all know why these frameworks became so proliferant and widely used. Compared to the early days of web development when everything was just vanilla, these frameworks introduced critical concepts like component architecture, which meant that developers can now write modular reusable code, which in turn improved developer efficiency and experience as well, because many people can now collaborate together on a single project. And these frameworks also introduced state management, which kind of opened up wide number of possibilities for the kind of dynamic and scalable experiences that you can build. As with all good things, there were a few problems as well. Each of these frameworks came with their own set of tools and setup for builds and deployments. And because of this, the developer experience took a hit, because if you are working on multiple projects that use multiple frameworks, there is always a constant juggling act of trying to set things up and the DevOps for each of these different frameworks. How do you build for this framework? How do you deploy for that framework? And all of this. So this is what we are trying to address here today. But before we do that, maybe a quick intro is in order here. How many of you have heard of Zoho before? Oh, okay, nice, nice. So as you guys know, Zoho is a B2B SaaS company. We make applications for companies to run their business. And we've been in this space for over 28 years and almost 3 decades now. And we have over 130 million people accessing and using our applications almost every day. And this right here is a snapshot of our growth over the years. And one thing I would like to bring your attention to is the number of applications that we've been shipping in the past few years. So I think recently the average is probably 7 or 8 new brand new applications in brand new verticals each year. So to operate at the scale that we do and to ship the number of apps that we do every year, it was not enough if we thought of and operated as a traditional software company. We had to be a technology company that also makes software. And the key behind our ability to ship so much is our deep-rooted tech stack that is basically the result of all the research and development that we've been doing for all these decades. And we own our entire stack right from the bare metal. So of course, there's the apps at the top, and then the microservices and software platforms at the bottom. For example, we have our own IAM, we have our own messaging queue, and we have our own database frameworks. And we do a lot of research in the hardware space as well. And when it comes to networking, we have our own CDN solution. And of course, the data centers are also our own, right? So we don't rely on any other public cloud provider for serving our customers. And this deep-rooted tech stack is what we opened up to other developers around the world a few years ago in the form of Catalyst. So Catalyst is a full-stack cloud development platform from Zoho, and it has all the components that you would need to build your full-stack projects, be it services for front-end and for compute, say serverless functions, or if you're using a Spring Boot project or a Flask project, or compute services can help you with that. And then when it comes to database, relational databases, object storages, we provide services for that. And security services like authentication is also built into this platform so that you can just connect them and use it in whatever you are building. And for more specialized requirements, we have AI and machine learning based services as well. So our focus here is on front end, and that's why we are really excited to announce Catalyst Slate here at React Nexus. This is the first time that we are actually talking about this product anywhere. And Catalyst Slate is a front-end platform that lets you build, deploy, and manage your front-end applications. And the developer experience is completely effortless. All you need to do is connect your version control system, be it GitLab, GitHub, or Bitbucket, and every time you make a commit, the changes get deployed, the build gets done, and you get a deployment URL instantly. And all of this tech, be it in Catalyst or specifically in Slate, is running on Zoho's own battle-tested infrastructure, right? So all of our 130 million users have been using this infrastructure, and the same power and capability is what you get when you use Catalyst Slate. So it works with almost all the frameworks that you love and use. There is no configuration required at per framework level. You just connect and you're good to go for your deployments. And this is, of course, not a definitive list. We support almost all the modern frameworks. These are just a few examples that we have listed here. So these are some of the locations where we have our data centers around the world. And apart from these data centers, we have additional edge locations as well. And we have our own CDN solution called as Nimbus that allows you to deliver content to your users at blazing fast speeds without doing any configuration at all. So this CDN comes as a part of Slate automatically. And let's take a look at Slate in action. Okay, let me just click that one. So I've connected my repository and I'm creating a new deployment and I'm enabling auto deploy. And whenever a change is being detected, it automatically runs the build process and it deploys the change for you. So you can go to the overview page to get details about the deployment. And you get the deployment URL and all the other configuration settings that you would usually use. So why specifically Slate? I'm sure you all have this question, right? There are other players in the market who do the same thing. Well, there's always a few catch, right? With the other players, you have surprises that are there in their pricing plans. And then there are hidden clauses that prevent you from doing certain things, which we will see. And then if you want to build a proper full stack application, you sometimes have to integrate different services together and then make them all work together. There's no one comprehensive platform that does all of these. And these players, they mostly don't have their own infrastructure. They're running on the other hyperscalers. So when you're paying for their services, you're not just paying for their services, you're also paying the bills that they have to in turn pay for the other hyperscalers. But of course, if you're running it on Catalyst, it is Zoho's own infrastructure, and we are able to pass on those benefits to you as well. You don't even have to take our word for it. You just need to go through any of the social forums, and you can see people talking about these problems. For example, this user was sent a $100,000 bill for their static website just because it had a traffic spike. And the reason was that it crossed the bandwidth limits that they had in the free plan. So imagine you just have a quick little hobby project and then somehow it becomes viral, which you did not plan for. And then your card gets charged like an absurd amount like this. So this is why we understand this problem. And that's why in Slate, we have no bandwidth charges at all. And thank you. Well, we have another good news as well. And we also don't have any per seat pricing as well. So no matter how many people are there in your project, you can work with them and you get unlimited collaboration. So this is not just with Slate, this applies for the entire Catalyst platform as well. And here's another thing. Other players also have their free plan, right? But they don't allow you to build commercial stuff out of their free or hobby plans. If that is the case, you have to upgrade to a paid plan. But if you're like a small startup and probably your usage does not warrant purchasing a higher plan, in that case, you're stuck because there's no other go. So we want to support developers like you as well. And that's why we don't have any hidden clauses. We have a transparent pricing model. So if your usage is within the free tier, you will not be charged anything, and you can build whatever you want and make how much ever money you want from it. And I'm sure some of you have heard of our founder, Sridhar. So he usually says you don't really need to be in the actual Silicon Valley to build world-class products, right? So with Catalyst and Slate, we intend to make this possible for everyone who is here. And so, yeah, sorry for the shabby looking picture. We just took it before this. So please feel free to come say hi to our booth. We'd love to have you there. And you can take a look at the demo of Slate. And also, we have a workshop scheduled on Saturday at 2 p.m. Where you will all be given early access to try Slate and deploy a few projects yourself to get the feel for the product. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll probably walk away with a Sony XM4. So we look forward to having you all at the booth and the workshop as well. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
That was a really nice talk by Vignesh. Thank you, Vignesh. Can we have another round of applause for him? So up next is Atikesh Srivastav, a developer at Cast24 by day, biker, and builder by night. He's all about fast UIs, clean code, and open roads. So today he's here with some fresh takes on React Router version 7 and how to navigate your app without losing your mind or your stack trace. So let's welcome him on the stage. Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Atiksh. Little about me. I'm an engineer at Cast24, and other than this, I love building Shopify apps. So yeah, today I'll be talking about React Router v7. So yeah, picture this, like you are a new joinee, you basically switched your job, you got a new team, and says ki, hey, can you modernize a React app and add SSR to it? So it's basically a legacy code that you have. And you're like, okay, I can do it, no worries. But and he says, and yeah, it should be without a rewrite. So again, what are your options here? Like you be like this, then you see like, what are my options? Like, how can I do it? So yeah, whenever you heard SSR, you are like, let's do Next.js, correct? But Next.js would be a complete rewrite again, and you don't have time. You can also explore something like Astro or something like that, but still a rewrite. You can also check Remix, but still rewrite as well. So yeah, enters React Router v7. So yeah, with React Router v7, you can actually add SSR to your existing CSR app even without a rewrite. And how is this gonna happen? Like, I'll explain it to you. So yeah, so with React Router v7, you get object-based route configurations, which are much more scalable than your regular route-based components. Then in React Router v7, you also get support for loaders and action function, which completely replaces your use effects directly in your code base. And it also has support for SSR and SSG first class, right? So yeah, with React Router v7, there are various modes, I would say, like the framework mode, the data mode, and the declarative mode. But for this talk, I'll just focus on the framework mode as of now. yeah, in the framework mode, you basically get type safe, hrefs, then module, route module API. You also get intelligent code splitting by default, so you don't have to figure it out. And you also get various rendering strategies, right? Like with like SPA, SSR, or SSG, whatever you want. So yeah, this is basically an example here of the route config that it like how it will look like in React V7, React Router V7, and it still supports your regular route-based component, so you can do it incrementally. It won't break anything. Next thing is the intelligent port splitting. So since React Router knows which route is being indexed to which component, or which whichever component you provide it to, so it will split it accordingly, so that whenever you open, let's say, your products page or particular product, home page is not actually imported from the bundle here. Yeah, so I'll show you a quick demo on how things work with React Router V7. So yeah, if you can see my screen, I already have set up a V6 CSR app and a V7 SSR app. So in the V6 CSR app, I'll just show you like my basic folder setup, which is just a regular Vite config, like a simple SRC folder. We have pages, components, assets. And if I show you the dashboard component here, so so this is a basic rendering component. We render the sidebar, add some theme toggles and the header section. We render some charts also here. In the data, for the data layer, you can see like we are using simple use effect to get metrics and charts data directly. On the browser, it will look something like this, I would say. If I like, this is the dashboard. We have a theme toggle here, then some sort of dummy metrics here. But this won't work if we basically do disable our JavaScript from the browser. So let's say I just do it. Yeah, I've just disabled JS for this tab, and if I do a reload, it won't work, because this was just a regular CSR app for us. I'll go back to the code again. I'll show you the structure for the SSR thing that I've just prepared. So yeah, on the folder structure, things are pretty much the same. We have the same SRC folder, the same public node modules and everything. Inside SRC also, we have the same components, pages, and everything remains the same. One thing that has changed is the route.js file, where we have defined our index routes and the doc page routes, which I'll explain later. So if we check the dashboard page component that we just made, now the rendering parts remains the same, actually, like just the chart component, metrics, and whatever that we had. But on the data fetching part, things are different now, since we are not using use effects. So with React Router, what we get, as I told you earlier, we get loader and action supports. So with this loader, React Router basically knows this things needs to be run on server, and while the client loader is something where we basically make calls on the client to get the data. Another thing I would like to highlight is this client loader.hydrate. So basically with React Router, what the flow is, you get the loader function running, you get the data, then you get the client loaders running only on subsequent browser navigations. But since we have this charts, we still need charts data to render the chart component, and that should actually happen on the first initial load, on the first initial hydration. So we need to add a flag here so that React Router knows we need to trigger it as early as possible. Next thing I would like to show is the React Router config file, which we will need to add. We simply define our SSR, which is true or false, a Boolean flag, then app directory thing. So by default, React Router expects us to have an app directory, but since we are kind of migrating from a previous version, we will have just a SRC thing. We just defined it here, and we can also define pre-rendering routes here. So in this demo, I will be also showing static site generation. So we will just define the route which needs to be, statically generated here. So yeah, for this code, if we see on the browser again, we have this app running. Yeah, the dashboard is pretty much the same, only we have the team toggle, some metrics. But now in this, if we basically go ahead and disable a JavaScript, yeah, if we just do a reload, so yeah, this is basically what the SSR thing came in. Like our initial HTML has all the data of the loader and every component that we loaded. This loading piece is still getting fetched on the client loader, which would be running on the client side. So that's why we still have a fallback of thing running there. Yeah. And first, like I'll just enable JavaScript again on this. Cool. Yeah, it's back again. And now for the, I'll basically show you the docs page website. Yeah. So since we basically want some routes to be pre-rendered on the server itself, let's say this doc page is one of those things. So yeah, again, we are using the loader function directly to fetch our data, and that data is getting rendered directly inside this component. So to just show about the pre-rendering part, we'll just do, let's say, npm run build here. And yeah, after the build has completed, you can see we have pre-rendered our data routes here with the data.html and docs.data. And if we basically do a serve thing for now, just to review this thing. Yeah. I'll just open the Google host /docs. And yeah, this whole docs route is now being pre-rendered on a server directly. And even things like toggle, theme toggle, and the JS things works here. So yeah, this is how we can actually integrate and implement SSR on our pre-existing client-side applications directly. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you for listening, and yeah, I'll be around if you guys have any questions here. So thank you.
Thank you, Atikesh. That's a great talk. Now let's hear from Harshit Budhraja, a senior software engineer from ImageKit. If your lighthouse course cries every time you open DevTools, then you will surely watch this talk. So let's welcome Harshit with a huge round of applause.
All right, guys. So before we begin, I would like to ask you a few questions. First, how many of you are hungry? Just one? I can see so many people out there who are very hungry. I can just make it out of their faces because I am hungry, very hungry. How many of you are sleepy? Everyone at the back. That was just like when I was in my college. I was just at the back bencher, always sleeping. Sometimes I used to bunk the classes because I used to sleep back in my hostel. All right. How many of you have worked on React? That's a stupid question, but quite a few. Anybody who's worked on Next.js, Vue, any of those frameworks? Anybody who is not a front-end engineer? Okay. Anybody who's not an engineer? Like any biotech guys? Commerce? Psychologists? No? Electricians? All right. So before we begin, let me show you something really cool that I built over the last weekend. Wait, let's just give it a time. It's taking some time to load. Should we wait for some more time or should we just skip it, come back to it later? I think we should come back to it later, right? All right. So anyways, can anybody tell me why I've written this number here? This big number in red, 53%. Average lighthouse score. No, not really. And this is not my 12th percentage. Anybody who has very similar 12th percentage? I can give you my lunch. Performance? LCP? Oh, guys, we are going too technical. It's not that. Think basics. User drops. Who said user drops? Agar page loop. Correct. So basically, I was about to give you a hint as well. Very dark humor, but okay, 3 seconds. But I think he was right. So this 53% is the percentage of mobile visitors who abandon a website if it takes more than 3 seconds to load. And I'm not saying this. This is actually published by a Google Consumer Insights report. And let that sink in for a second. Because now we know that if your website takes more than 3 seconds to load, you lose 50% of the traffic, more than half of your traffic. That's sad, right? So what happens is that if you think about modern React applications, which are full of heavy media applications, videos, images, all of that, right? High resolution. The thing is that it all looks great. It looks amazing visually, but then that takes a serious bottleneck on performance, right? So has anybody ever seen those low lighthouse scores? Like, 6, probably 5. Anybody who ever got a 0 there? No? Man, I don't think you are engineers because I've got a 0. So, but all in all, these series of low scores, they haunt you. They haunt us in metric where the